Funny thing about secrets, they don't hide well, they lean, they shift weight, they change posture. You can tell when someone's holding something behind their back because their smile tightens just a little and their eyes start checking exits instead of faces. Whatever it is, it's not neutral, it's not harmless. If it were, they'd put it on the table already. People think hiding is about silence, but it's really about control. Keeping something out of sight gives them power, or at least the illusion of it. They tell themselves they're protecting you, protecting the moment, protecting the future, when really they re-protecting themselves from what happens if the truth steps forward. Behavior is louder than words, always. People think they can hide things behind smiles, hand gestures, polite tones, but every secret leaves a signature. It's in the way they shift their weight, in the twitch of an eye, in the hesitation between breaths. Behavior is a map, a code, a signal, and hiding something behind your back doesn't erase it. It amplifies it in subtle ways that the observant can't ignore. When someone carries something unseen, they change, their movements are different. They tilt slightly, lean toward safety, avoid exposure. Their voice fluctuates in ways they don't notice. A pause stretches too long, a laugh is slightly off. These tiny inconsistencies aren't flaws, they're the evidence of concealment. The body doesn't lie as easily as the mouth. Most people believe hiding is about secrecy, but it's actually about control. Control over perception, over timing, over reaction. If they reveal too soon, they lose the upper hand, they lose the comfort of strategy, they risk consequence. That's why hidden things are so often delayed, managed, and measured. It's not malice, it's instinct. Survival in miniature. The act of hiding something affects thought. Every decision becomes weighed against what is concealed. Conversations are filtered. Words are chosen not for clarity, but for protection. Even casual gestures are evaluated for risk. That tension subtly reshapes personality, making people defensive, calculated, and hyper-aware of reactions they never had to monitor before. You can sense the weight even if you don't know its content. There's a kind of energy around withheld things, a pressure in the room, an unevenness in attention. People talk past it, laugh around it, or ignore it, but instinct notices. Instinct feels the subtle resistance, the invisible pause, the hesitancy in timing. That's the signature of concealment. Behavior becomes the shadow of what's hidden. People straighten their back, adjust their grip, avoid certain topics, repeat phrases, and create distance. All without realizing it, they're broadcasting to the world that something is being held. And anyone paying attention will see it because energy leaks through cracks faster than lies ever can. Hiding also creates psychological strain. The mind knows there's a burden. It nudges, whispers, and sometimes screams in moments of unguarded thought. People react emotionally in ways they cannot fully control. Mood swings, irritability, excessive caution, overcompensation, all are signs of an internal load carried silently. The behavior isn't random, it's a reflection of the hidden weight. Social interactions become carefully choreographed. Every gesture is calculated for safety, every word selected to obscure, every movement measured against potential exposure. People holding secrets operate on a dual plane, what they present and what they guard. That duality creates tension, subtly disorienting both them and the people around them. You'll notice it in micro-expressions, in fleeting glances, in the way they handle objects, in the patterns of speech that repeat too perfectly or falter unexpectedly. They may think no one can tell, but behavior is difficult to suppress. The human body and mind react to concealment automatically, its unconscious truth leaking through. Holding something behind your back also influences interaction with time. Moments stretch or contract, depending on perceived risk of revelation. Decisions are postponed, actions are cautious, Engagements are limited. The world itself becomes a map for avoidance, all dictated by the weight of what is kept hidden. The people around them sense it even if they can't name it. Intuition picks up on imbalance, tension, and subtle cues. You don't need to know what is hidden to understand that something is. Instinct functions as a radar for deviation from normal patterns, and hidden things always create deviation. Concealment is a form of power, yes, but it is also a form of pressure. The longer something is held behind the back, the heavier it becomes. The body tightens, the mind calculates more. Every interaction becomes a rehearsal of avoidance. Eventually, the pressure forces either revelation or collapse. And the truth is, hidden things almost never stay hidden forever. Behavior will betray them, timing will betray them, energy will betray them. When concealment becomes heavier than control, the hidden item moves forward, and the moment of revelation comes undeniable, leaving traces of tension, anticipation, and the subtle, unavoidable truth of all the behavior that led up to insolence is not empty. It carries weight, a presence that fills the room even when no words are spoken. People think keeping quiet is harmless, that it's neutral, that it preserves civility or avoids conflict, but silence is active. It signals, it pressures, it communicates. Especially when someone is holding something behind their back, silence becomes a language in itself, a language that doesn't ask for permission to be understood. When someone remains silent, it's rarely random. It's deliberate or instinctual, a shield against exposure. Every pause, every unspoken word, every hesitation in conversation is a sign of negotiation with whatever is being concealed. Silence protects them from immediate consequence, but it also broadcasts the existence of the unseen to those who pay attention. People confuse silence with innocence. They assume that because nothing is said, nothing is happening, but the opposite is true. Silence is full, its energy compressed, tension coiled, attention held. People who hide things rely on silence to manage perception, to maintain control over timing, to dictate how much others see before the full story is revealed. The effect of silence is profound. It makes those around them uneasy without revealing why. It creates space for speculation, for interpretation, for projection. People sense that the air has weight, that something is missing, that truth is being withheld. That unease is intentional, even if unintentional. Silence never lies, it always communicates something real. Silence also amplifies the importance of the hidden. A word spoken lightly may pass unnoticed, but a pause stretches time, making every interaction feel significant. Every glance, every gesture, every tone of voice becomes magnified. The mind fills gaps with possibility, and the imagination often exaggerates what is being concealed. Silence manipulates perception as effectively as revelation. There's a tension in people who hold things back that is visible even in quiet moments. They adjust posture, avoid eye contact, repeat phrases, and over-explain minor points. The body and mind are constantly negotiating the hidden burden, and those around them sense the imbalance instinctively. Even if the secret is small, the tension it creates is disproportionate. People often underestimate how much silence shapes behavior. It slows conversation, changes pacing, and forces others to engage with absence rather than presence. When someone is holding back, silence becomes a tool, a method of influence. It allows them to guide reactions without directly intervening, to control what is perceived without revealing themselves. Silence also forces reflection. Those who interact with someone holding a secret begin scanning for clues, patterns, inconsistencies. They notice timing, micro-expressions, tone, body language. They sense what is not said as vividly as what is. Silence converts observers into detectives, turning ordinary interactions into investigations of hidden meaning. The person holding the secret experiences silence differently. It is heavy, a constant pressure that shapes thought and action. Every moment of quiet is a negotiation with fear, with anticipation, with responsibility. Silence forces them to rehearse disclosure or concealment, to anticipate reactions, to measure risk. It's a constant mental calculus, a burden that others can often sense before they know why. There is also power in silence. It keeps options open, maintains leverage, and allows the holder to dictate the pace of revelation. But power comes at a cost. The longer something is kept quiet, the heavier the silence becomes. The tension increases. Small gestures start to feel like exposure. Conversations become minefields. The hidden truth weighs on mind and body alike. People rarely understand that silence is never truly empty. It is always carrying consequences, potential reactions, unspoken truths. Even when ignored, silence commune. Icates. It shapes perception, it exerts influence, it molds relationships. Every withheld word is a choice, a declaration, a manipulation of time and attention. And the paradox is that silence cannot last forever. The longer it stretches, the more pressure builds until action or revelation becomes inevitable. When the hidden thing finally emerges, the silence that preceded it intensifies the impact, leaving traces of tension, anticipation, and the undeniable imprint of every unspoken word that led up to the moment. Pressure is invisible until it isn't. It creeps in quietly, wraps around the chest, tightens the jaw, makes the stomach churn, and suddenly you realize that someone has been holding something behind their back, and the air itself feels different. It's not the object they hide that matters as much as the weight it creates, the way it shifts everything around it, how it forces attention even when people pretend to ignore it. People underestimate the force of hidden pressure because it doesn't scream. It doesn't announce itself with violence or overt conflict. It's subtle, persistent, and inescapable. The longer something is held back, the more it reshapes behavior, posture, and focus. Every movement, every glance, every hesitation is subtly altered by the invisible weight of concealment. Pressure exposes character. When someone carries a secret, they adjust, they overcompensate, they measure words, manipulate tone, and monitor expressions. Even minor actions become calculated to avoid exposure. The hidden object isn't just physical, it's a psychological burden that dictates how energy flows in a room, how conversation bends, how trust stretches and snaps under the tension. Those around them feel it too. You don't need to see what's held to sense its gravity. There's a subtle shift in atmosphere. Timing becomes awkward. Words hesitate in the air. Attention is drawn, not to the subject being discussed, but to what's missing. The energy of concealment leaks into perception, shaping intuition, awareness, and instinct without anyone consciously admitting it. Pressure builds in layers. At first it's quiet, almost ignorable. Then it tightens, demanding focus, pulling behavior into alignment with the hidden weight. The person holding the secret constantly negotiates between maintaining control and anticipating exposure. Each interaction becomes a negotiation between revealing too much and staying safe, between trust and self-preservation. Hidden pressure also magnifies fear. Not the loud, obvious fear of danger, but the subtle, gnawing fear of discovery, of consequence, of responsibility. Fear manifests as defensiveness, irritability, over-explaining, and excessive caution. Every choice is measured against potential outcomes, every gesture calculated to prevent accidental revelation. Pressure makes ordinary people cautious, strategic, and hyper-aware. Pressure forces attention. Nothing stays neutral under its influence. The person holding the secret can't act entirely naturally, and those around them pick up the cues subconsciously. Conversations slow, energy levels fluctuate, body language adapts. Subtle patterns emerge that reveal the weight being carried, even if the content of the burden remains unknown. Pressure isolates. The one holding something behind their back carries it alone, even among friends, colleagues, or loved ones. That isolation creates a tension that radiates outward, changing how relationships operate. Interactions are filtered, choices are measured, and authenticity is sacrificed to maintain concealment. The hidden weight becomes a lens through which all behavior is refracted. Pressure also demands readiness. The longer something is withheld, the more precise every action must be. One slip, one misstep, one uncontrolled moment could release the hidden element prematurely, creating chaos. People holding secrets become hyper-conscious of timing, environment, and reactions, rehearsing movement, speech, and expression as if life itself is under surveillance. The paradox of pressure is that it is both protective and destructive. It safeguards the secret, maintains control, and manipulates perception, but it also erodes spontaneity, heightens stress, and changes how people experience reality. It's invisible, relentless, and cumulative, leaving its mark on both the holder and those who sense it. Pressure, like concealment itself, cannot last forever. The heavier it becomes, the more the hidden thing demands acknowledgement. Eventually, it either forces action, reveals truth, or fractures under its own weight. The signs are there long before revelation: tension in speech, hesitation in action, subtle shifts in energy, and a growing awareness in those who are paying attention. And the remarkable thing is that pressure, though silent, always speaks. It communicates even without words, shifts dynamics without announcements, and shapes outcomes before the hidden thing is ever put on display. Every subtle movement, every careful pause, every measured gesture carries the invisible weight, and that weight never goes unnoticed. Trust is fragile when someone is holding something behind their back. It doesn't shatter all at once. It fractures slowly, imperceptibly, like cracks forming in glass that seems perfectly intact. You can sense it in hesitation, in the way people avoid certain topics, in the subtle shifts of posture or tone. Trust bends and bends under the invisible weight of what's being concealed, and even if the secret is harmless, the act of hiding it poisons the energy around it. People think trust is built by words, by promises, by assurances. They're wrong. Trust is built on visibility, on consistency, on the absence of concealment. When something is hidden, no matter how small, it introduces doubt. It makes interactions cautious. It makes intentions suspect. Even without knowing what is hidden, the mind starts filling the gaps with suspicion and conjecture. When someone carries a secret, they treat relationships differently. They monitor reactions, they filter their words, they measure gestures. Every interaction becomes a calculation, a dance of omission, and the people around them feel it, even unconsciously. Conversations become skewed, energy becomes guarded, subtle cues trigger instinctive mistrust. That's the invisible cost of holding things behind one's back. The more important the relationship, the more damaging the concealment. With friends, family, lovers, or colleagues, secrecy introduces imbalance. One person is aware, the other is guessing. The dynamic shifts without acknowledgement, trust erodes quietly, and tension builds invisibly. People begin compensating for the hidden, adjusting their own behavior to accommodate what they can't see but can feel. Hiding something also forces internal conflict. The person carrying the secret constantly measures what they reveal, to whom, and when. Every conversation becomes strategic. Every action is calibrated. Even casual gestures are filtered. The mind and body operate in two modes simultaneously, one presenting normalcy, the other managing the hidden weight. That duality is exhausting. and it leaks out in micro expressions, timing inconsistencies, and subtle energy shifts. Trust doesn't just suffer in silence, it suffers in anticipation. Those who sense concealment may not know exactly what is being hidden, but they feel the tension. They notice the pauses, the diversion tactics, the extra attention to detail. Suspicion grows quietly in their mind. Trust diminishes because humans are wired to detect imbalance and act on it, even without conscious proof. Secrecy also pressures relationships into patterns of overcompensation. Both parties behave differently than they would in full transparency. The holder of the secret becomes cautious, guarded, calculating, while those around them begin testing boundaries, probing for consistency, or unconsciously withdrawing. Every interaction is influenced by the unseen, and the normal flow of trust is interrupted. The longer something is held back, the more fragile trust becomes. Small misalignments, small slips, or even innocent mistakes are amplified. What might have been overlooked under full transparency becomes a point of doubt or suspicion. The hidden element distorts perception, magnifies error, and subtly erodes confidence in intentions and reliability. Trust is not only affected by what is hidden, but by the anticipation of revelation. The human mind instinctively calculates risk. If this is concealed now, what else might be concealed later? That anticipation alone weighs heavily on relationships. It's like walking on ice. Every step is tentative, measured, uncertain, even if nothing has yet been revealed. Trust also reacts to energy rather than content. It's possible to sense concealment without knowing the secret itself. Intuition picks up tension, shifts, hesitations, and internal struggle. That awareness influences trust more powerfully than words ever could. The act of hiding communicates louder than any confession ever could. The paradox is that secrecy is often intended to preserve relationships or protect others, but it almost always undermines them. Concealment breeds tension, suspicion, and recalibration. Relationships cannot exist fully in balance when one party is shielding information, regardless of intent or motive. Eventually, trust reaches a breaking point. The weight of the hidden becomes undeniable, the energy too strained to maintain normalcy. The longer concealment persists, the greater the eventual fracture, because trust is cumulative. It grows slowly, erodes slowly, and the invisible influence of what's held back accelerates decay without anyone fully acknowledging it. And the bitter truth is that trust reacts before truth does. Even if the secret is harmless, even if the intention is good, relationships sense imbalance. They adapt, they adjust, they create distance, and they respond to the subtle, unavoidable signals that accompany concealment, proving that holding something behind your back changes everything before the moment of revelation ever arrives. Observation is a weapon most people ignore. They assume that seeing is believing, that attention is passive, that what they notice doesn't matter. But when someone is holding something behind their back, observation becomes a tool for survival. Every gesture, every glance, every hesitation is a data point. The eyes, ears, and instincts collect these points, piecing together a story that the lips refuse to tell. People underestimate the subtlety of human signals. A shift in weight, a twitch of a finger, a pause too long. These are all indicators, whispers of what's hidden. The mind may dismiss them at first, attributing them to coincidence or mood, but repeated patterns cannot be ignored. Observation doesn't lie. It records what is, even when words conceal the truth. The person holding something is rarely aware of how much they reveal. The body remembers what the mind tries to hide. Micro-expressions, unconscious gestures, and timing inconsistencies betray intention. Even the most practiced deception leaks information. Observation thrives on these leaks, gathering clarity from what is accidentally displayed rather than what is deliberately spoken. Observation is both passive and active. Passive, Beck. Awe it notices without interference, picking up subtleties the conscious mind might overlook. Active, because it interprets these subtleties, weighs significance, predicts outcomes. It turns ordinary interaction into a map of hidden agendas, signaling that nothing is truly invisible to a careful eye. Those who observe well detect the invisible tension before it manifests overtly. They sense the hesitation in speech, the delay in movement, the disproportionate attention to trivial details. Observation allows people to understand the landscape of concealment, to see what is being shielded and anticipate what may eventually be revealed. Observation also creates accountability, whether intended or not. The person holding a secret adjusts subconsciously to the gaze of someone paying attention. They alter tone, posture, and timing, attempting to maintain control over perception. But every adjustment is a signal, a breadcrumb that observers can follow. The act of watching changes behavior, just as concealment changes energy. People rarely realize how much is revealed without speaking. Observation captures emotion, intent, and conflict in ways that words cannot. A sigh, a blink, a tightened jaw, all are messages encoded in behavior. Those who rely solely on spoken communication miss the narrative that observation exposes effortlessly. Observation is amplified by context. The same gesture in one setting might be inconsequential, but repeated across interactions, it forms a pattern. Patterns betray secrets more effectively than a single mistake. Observation turns repetition into understanding, allowing intuition to catch what deliberate explanation cannot address. Those being observed experience the pressure unconsciously. They tighten, hesitate, overthink, overcompensate. They rehearse movements and conversations, aware on some level that their concealment is being tested agai. NST perception. This tension leaks into all interactions, subtly influencing tone, choice, and even posture, creating a feedback loop where observation shapes behavior and behavior reveals more. Observation exposes hierarchy too. Who notices first? Who questions subtly? Who interprets instinctively? These roles shift dynamics. Hidden things are rarely neutral in influence. Observers gain knowledge, power, and leverage even before the hidden item is revealed. Awareness itself becomes a form of control. Observation sharpens over time. Initial cues may be vague, almost ignorable, but repeated exposure refines the ability to interpret, to anticipate, to see the unseen. People who pay attention develop a sixth sense for imbalance, tension, and concealment. They recognize what is held behind the back without being told, relying on accumulated data rather than confession. Even without full understanding, observation reduces uncertainty. It allows people to navigate interactions more safely, predict responses, and protect themselves from surprises. It converts invisible pressure into actionable insight, translating subtle human behavior into clarity. Observation also influences morality and choice. Once a hidden element is perceived, the observer must decide how to act. Do they confront, ignore, exploit, or prepare? The act of noticing itself initiates responsibility, transforming passive attention into ethical engagement. Being aware changes the landscape of concealment even before the secret is revealed. And the remarkable thing is that observation rarely fails. Even when nothing is said, even when every movement is calculated, there are cracks. Humans cannot hide entirely. The body and mind betray intention, the environment pressures behavior, and the watchful eye reconstructs truth from fragments, proving that careful attention can uncover what others think remains forever hidden.